It's a 10-10-20 no limit hold'em at Parks Casino. So the hand starts with we have about 5K behind,
Okay.
and we're in the cutoff.
Okay.
We open to 80 with Queen 10 of spades. Small blind has about 3K.
Mm-hmm.
He calls, and the straddle also calls. Straddle has about 10K. So but the main villain is with the small blind. So we go three ways to the flop. The flop is about what 240 ish.
Oh.
The flop comes out Jack of spades,
Mm-hmm.
nine of hearts,
Yep.
and seven of clubs.
All right. So let's slow down here for a second. You flop open ended with the backdoor flush draw. You open the cutoff 10-10-20 here because it's straddle. Okay.
Correct.
Yep.
So 3K effective hand. We
Yep.
have an open here with backdoor flush draw.
Yep. Okay.
They both check to us, and we see bet for 90. And we see bet for 90, and small blind takes a check raise line to 300. And the straddle folds, and we call.
Okay. So I think that's relatively standard here. I mean, it's a little bit weird. I mean, just right off the bat, I don't know how familiar you are with the player pool, but I do question the small, even right off the bat here, Nathaniel. I would question the strength in terms of a player strength of the small blind when he's playing off of 150 big blinds effective off the straddle and just cold calling out of the small blind with two blinds to his left. I mean, that's not really sound fundamental poker.
Correct. And Bart, the one thing I wanted to tell you is that, of course, I want your kind of your objective view here, but then playing live is very different. And this villain in the small blind, he's a younger Asian, probably in his 20s. He's a recreational player, so he does. I don't think he is, like you mentioned, like sound or GTO. He limps a lot with strong hands, and also limps with terrible hands.
So he could have like Jack 9 here. He could have a set of nines. He could have a set of seven. Somebody in the live chat make a comment that our range wants to check here on this flop, but the actual hand in itself, live, I think it's a fine bet. Obviously, he might have 8-10 suited. Of course, you block some of that, right? Having a 10 in your hand. So that's a fairly good background where we might start to see some two-pair combos here that shouldn't really be in here pre-flop just based upon the history of this guy, right? 9-7 suited, Jack 9 suited, whatever. Sure. All right, so 550 the turn, yep.
Yep, so the turn is about, what, 840? 840 total pot?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry. Yeah, 840, yep.
Yep, and then the turn comes out at 9 of clubs. So pairs the board.
Okay.
With two clubs coming
Backdoor
out.
clubs, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, we both check.
And hero checks. So what is this normally indicative of when the small blind falls like a check raise check?
This is interesting because on the flop, when he takes a check raise line, I think all sevens would do that, all pocket sevens. I just don't know how nines and jacks kind of land there when it was a kind of just a flat pre-flop with no three bet. But then again, this villain is a little tricky like that, so I could definitely see him with two nines too. But at the same time, my probable range here is like sevens or even Jack 10 clubs, Jack 8 clubs, so Jack X of clubs is kind of what I'm thinking would take this check raise line. But then when he checks the turn, that becomes a little funky now.
Well, I just think that a lot of times people just check a full house here, right? Like they had two pair or set, right, that we were talking about. Jack 9, 9, 7, pocket 9, sevens, and then they just check when they hit. Would 8-10 here check just because the board pairs? Probably not. And then, of course, the other side of this is that, like, is he ever making some weird protection raise with, like, ace-jack, and now he's all of a sudden scared? He was raising to see where he's at, and now he's scared, and he doesn't want to put any more money in the pot. But if you look at all of those ranges, if you look at that range of hands that I just discussed, against that range of hands, your hand absolutely wants to check back, right? Because even the weaker portions of his hands that are checking for pot control, they're not going to fold, right, on the turn. So
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think at the time when he checked, like he snap checked back, I kind of thought maybe he voted up and he wants to me to catch up or make a move on the river. So that definitely came across my mind.
Yeah.
Now river becomes a little interesting because the river brings in the king of clubs. So the backdoor clubs comes through, and also the king makes my nut straight.
Right. So you make a straight. It's jack of spades, nine of hearts, seven of clubs. You bet 90, check raise to 300 call, turns the nine of clubs, puts a backdoor club draw out there with the seven, check, check. River's the king of clubs. So you make a straight now, but the backdoor flush now comes in. The jack is not a club, by the way, or the nine. Oh, excuse me. The jack is not a club on the flop, which is important when doing sort of backdoor flush hand reading, right?
Correct.
Okay, now what does?
And then he checks it to me. It's interesting. He does does this check raise, check check move on me on the river. Then I think about it, and I obviously go for value with on the river with a bet size of 650. Um,
Wow. I don't know about that sizing though, because what are you trying to target here that you're ahead of? I'm not saying that the bet is bad, but I'm just saying what hands are you trying to get value from here?
right, and I wanted to ask you about the sizing because I think the sizing could have been chosen appropriately, where I
Hmm.
could check fold. I mean bet fold. I feel like 650 might be a little too high for me to even uh, even fold jam. So that was definitely a question I had with the bet sizing. But to answer your question, I was targeting when he checks to me two times. Now I'm thinking I'm targeting all Jack X.
Right, but look at the river though. The river's a king, right? It brings backdoor clubs in. Is he going to call you for 650 into 840 with Jack X? It's just that's why, it's a dynamic overcard river. So when you're trying to target the weaker portions of his check raise flop range, which is Jack X, it's not a great card for Jack X, I think, to call down with. So I think that this should be like 350 to 400. You also, like you had said, sort of kind of leave yourself a little bit more of an escape hatch here. If you're betting 650 and then all of a sudden you're going to get pot stuck to a check jam all in, that's really, really dubious. I mean, if he check jams you here, you go 650, he calls, pot would be 21, and what, he's jamming for like another 18 or something like that.
Yeah. He check raises all in for 2,000, so about 1350 on top of the 650.
So he now he check jams for 2,000. So jams all in for 2,000. So the pot is so it's 3,500, 13 for you to call.
Yep.
I think I fold here pretty easily, man. I got to tell you. I mean, I don't know if you're pot stuck here or what. I mean, it's 1,300 more. I mean, yeah, you're getting like, two and a half, 3 to 1, but I just, this guy's a recreational player. Like, what bluff is he running here?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely tanked for a while. I mean, this double check raise move is super nutted, right? It just can't be a bluff. And um, I'm just thinking like uh what takes this line? This double check raise. This check on the river really did confuse me. And again, he is a recreational player. He's not much of a thinking player, I would say. So that really inclined me to fold. So that's what I've ended up doing. I tank folded for a long time, and then he makes these.
I mean, I want to answer your question. What hands do this? What about all the full houses? I mean, I see full houses like this, do this a lot too. And the other thing to note here too is that if you had a hand like, I'm trying to think, well, you can't have king 10 of clubs, right? Because if you had queen 10 of clubs, let's say instead of queen 10 of spades, you had queen 10 of clubs and you decided not to bet the turn. I think I don't know if it matters that much, to be perfectly. I mean, the only thing that you could say there is that it's possible that he might be overplaying Jack X of clubs, but that's the only thing. But I mean, 3,500 here for 1,300. I just think that you've sized up too much at the end when you're trying to target Jack X. It's just, you are correct in that we don't really see a whole lot of nutted hands go check, 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 check on turn and river, which makes me want a value bet, but I don't know what the results are. You say you folded. Did he show down what he had or what?
Yeah, I folded, and then he did not show, but moments later he kept on persuading me that if you called, you were good. One of those reverse tells where, yeah, he probably really had a nutted hand and he really wanted me to call, but frustrated that I folded. He made those comments, which kind of makes me believe he actually had it. But
here's the other thing. here's the other thing too, as we wrap this one up, and this is again another sort of small stakes exploit coming from the small stakes exploit guide. If this is a recreational player and he's check raised the flop here, okay, and even if he was doing it with like Jack X, he would have to be turning something into a bluff here for the most part, unless it was some sort of non-paired 10x. Like, but I mean that like ace 10, I mean that would be it, because he's going to have a top pair with Jack X. Rex are going to be more inclined to call down and not turn that into a bluff. Or the superstar bluff, right, would be if he had like 9-10 here, like 9-10 suited, which is a maybe check raised on the flop. But I mean, is he going to follow it up with the turn? Is he going to follow it up with a check on the turn with trips? And then on the river, is he going to check raise all in here with 10-9 when it's trips and he can call? That's one of the small stakes exploits where if you can find a hand that would have to be paired and sort of far up in the top pairish type of range or better, and now you're getting it. If you find a spot where the bluff would have to be like top pair or better against a lot of rec players, it's not, you can overfold in that spot because they're going to be doing a lot of calling down more than turning those hands into bluffs.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, I think the mistake I've made was sizing a little bit too large on the river. And in game, my thoughts were I made the straight here and against this player where we have some history kind of battling between us. I feel like checking back might be a little too strong with the straight here. But in hindsight, it's just I did not see that check raise coming, but I could have definitely sized a little lower where I can just bet fold on the river.
Didn't you say you folded?
I did. I folded.
Well, why are you concerned about your sizing if you keep saying I could have bet fold on the river?
Well, because I almost called. I literally almost called. But it would have been a much more comfortable fold if I had bet size.
Okay. Yeah, and again, like I said, size down a little bit, just see what you're trying to figure out, what you're targeting. But I appreciate the call, Nathan. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, and check out the coupon code in the description to try out the Crush Live Poker training site for free.